everybody, it's Frank Spear. Haven't done a lesson in a while, so I thought I would do a country solo lesson, which you just saw and heard. And this is in the key of G. It was a basic 1-4-5 country tune. And I want to go over what I'm doing over each chord. It's a short solo, and maybe you'll be able to pick up some concepts from this that are useful for you. So we start on that first lick on the G chord, right? This is, by the way, I'm using this Greg Koch signature model Reverend guitar with the Fluence pickups in it. Sounds amazing. Super light. It's underneath this pick guard here. It's chambered. So it's really, it's a little over 7 pounds. Anyway, that's the sound coming directly out of my little PV Blue Delta Blues, just going directly into the amp with a little reverb. Sound pretty great. So we got this opening G chord thing here. You know, I decided to start so, you know, my concept is I always target chord tones. So I'm starting this opening lick and then I'm nailing the 5th of the G chord, the D, right? So it's A to G, and then chromatically down from E to D. But I'm nailing that chord tone. Same thing, right? I go back up to the B, which is the 3rd of G. Right? So 5th, then up to the 3rd. And I'm just walking it down like a bass player might. Right? We're walking it down as we're about to come to the 4 chord C. So. So there, I'm going here to the C, C and G, then to the B. Those are the bottom notes, right? So the bass line. So you're looking at C, B, A, G. Right down the G major scale. On my way to the 4 chord. And then those I just put a top note on that bass line that is in the key or in the chord of G, right? Or G major, so my bad there. So on the top of the C note, I put a B, a G. Let's slow down, I talk too fast. On the top of this C note, I put a G. Then the B note, I put an F sharp. Then the A note, I put an E. Then the G note, I put a D. And we're just about to go to the C chord, the 4 chord. I whip up here and grab a partial G chord and bend it a little. You can do it from this part too. It's like the D shape of the G chord. So the whole thing is over the G chord. Or you just grab it. Now we hit the C chord. And I run the... Just playing with the C major scale. so I do a lick there. Something like that. Then I tag that G chord and we go back to it. It says G, just the top half. And then it's a little country trick, right, where you're taking this G chord, but you're taking the B, which is the lowest note, and you're moving it down a half step to the B flat, and then hammering back up to the B to give it that, right? So all together we've got right, so we're back at the G now. Then I do a little hammer-on run on the G chord. So I'm hammering there. We're back on the G chord. I'm hammering the 1 chord. I'm hammering from the B to the C. Then I'm going up to the D, the 5th of the 1 chord, and hammering from D to E. And then I'm going up to the G note itself. So I went from the 5th of the G chord and hammered on the next note up in the key, C, right? And then I went up to the D, which is the 5th. So I went from the 3rd of G, then the 5th of G, then the root G. And hammer from the G to A there. And then I do a typical old rockabilly run. Right? So I'm thinking about the G major scale from here. G major pentatonic, really. So what I do is I hammer from that F sharp to G, and then I grab this A and let that dissonance ring out. And then then I go from this A to the B, then I grab the D and let that ring out. Right? I slide up and grab that E and B. We're still on the G chord here. And I end the lick on the G chord with that little chord, which is like D on top, A, and G. So it's a form of a G chord if you look at it that way, from the lowest note being the G. And I got a D in there, which is the 5th, right? And then I got an A in there, which is 2nd, so it's like a D9 chord. All right, so we've got that. The most important thing to understand here is whatever chord I'm playing over, I'm using notes primarily from that chord or that scale. If it's a G major chord, I'm playing around the G major scale. When I go to the C chord, I'll play around in the G major scale, but I'm landing on notes that are in that C chord. So the root 5 and 3 of that C chord. Same thing, we go to the D or the D7. I'm still playing out of the G major scale, but I'll highlight the D, the notes that are in that D chord. And so I'll be doing licks always out of the G major scale, coming up with licks around G major, whether it's here, here, or here, or then we're back again. right? So I'm always thinking G major, because we're in the key of G major here. If we were in A, I'd be thinking A major and so forth. But when the chords change, I highlight the root, the third or the fifth of that chord, and then I develop my licks around that. So far over the first G chord, we have... And now we're going to the C chord, right? Right now we're changing back to the G chord. So we got that. Now we're hitting a D7 chord. That's where it's going in the tune. So we're going to D7 here, and here I play a bunch of weird crap, right? I'm thinking diminished, but I'm just adding in whatever notes I want, really, that sound quirky. So I'm going up here when it hits that D7 chord. You can usually mess around with funky notes on the 5 chord going back to the 1. So I'll start up here on this D shape, like the D down here, but an octave up. And I just start there, and then I just go quirky and go. Ending on the 3rd of G, because it's going from D7 back to G. It's going from the 5 to the 1 in the song. And so while that D7's going by, I get crazy. It goes a little longer. Now I'm to the G, so I just... Then I straighten it out, right? I start to resolve as we're getting back to the 1. So the listener gets a little bit of that, whoa, 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 what is that? And then as I'm coming home to the 1 chord, I get diatonic again. I go back to the major scale. And I land on the 3rd of that G chord. So hopefully those concepts help you in writing your solos or improvising. And I worked on that for maybe a half hour and came up with that solo. It's a short one, but I hope you enjoyed it. See you guys next time.